I opened my eyes to the sound of footsteps echoing down the dark alleyway. The air was thick with a sense of foreboding, and I couldn't help but shiver as I peered out from the safety of my hiding spot. I knew I shouldn't be here, but my curiosity had gotten the better of me, and now I was trapped in this macabre scene. I had always been fascinated by the story of Jack the Ripper, the infamous serial killer who terrorized the streets of London in the late 1800s. And now, here I was, standing in the very spot where one of his victims had been found. I took a deep breath and stepped out from the shadows, my heart pounding in my chest. As I made my way down the alleyway, I could feel the eyes of some unseen force watching me from the darkness. Suddenly I heard a rustling sound behind me, and I spun around, my eyes scanning the area for any sign of danger. But there was nothing there, just the sound of my own breathing and the fluttering of my heart. I took another step forward, and that's when I saw it. The faint outline of a figure standing at the end of the alleyway. It was too dark to make out any features, but I could feel its eyes on me, watching me with an intensity that made my skin crawl. I tried to turn and run, but my legs wouldn't move. I was frozen in place, and that's when I heard it. A low, guttural growl that seemed to come from everywhere and nowhere at once. I could feel the hairs on the back of my neck standing up, and I knew that whatever was out there was not human. I don't know how long I stood there, rooted to the spot, but eventually, the growling stopped. The figure at the end of the alleyway disappeared, and I was left alone in the darkness. I took a deep breath and started to walk back the way I had come, my heart still pounding in my chest. But as I turned the corner onto the main street, I knew that something had changed. The air was thick with the scent of blood, and I could hear the sound of screams and laughter in the distance. It was as if the world around me had shifted, and I was no longer in the familiar streets of London. I stumbled forward, my eyes scanning the area for any sign of help, but all I could see were shadows and darkness, broken only by the flickering light of street lamps. And then I saw him. Jack the Ripper, standing at the end of the street, his eyes fixed on me with an intensity that made my blood run cold. I tried to run, but my legs wouldn't move. I was paralyzed with fear, and all I could do was watch as he started to walk toward me, his knife glinting in the dim light. I closed my eyes, waiting for the inevitable, but when I opened them again, he was gone. And in his place, there was only the sound of my own breathing and the pounding of my heart. I stumbled forward, my feet taking me down streets and alleyways that I didn't recognize, and everywhere I looked, I saw signs of the horror that had taken place here so long ago. The streets were littered with blood and discarded body parts, and I could hear the sound of distant screams echoing through the night. I knew then that I was trapped, caught in a never-ending nightmare that would only end with my own death. And as I walked through the darkened streets of London, I couldn't help but wonder if I was going mad. Perhaps I had stumbled into some alternate reality, or maybe I had fallen asleep and was now trapped in a nightmare. But then I saw her, a woman walking alone down a deserted alleyway. She was oblivious to the danger that lurked in the shadows, and I knew that I had to do something to warn her. "Hey!" I shouted, my voice echoing through the darkness. "You need to get out of here! It's not safe!" The woman turned to look at me, her face filled with confusion and fear.
"Who are you?"
she asked, taking a step back. "I'm just someone trying to help," I said, taking a step forward. "There's something out here, something dangerous." And then I saw it, a figure stepping out from the shadows behind her. It was Jack the Ripper, his eyes fixed on his next victim. I tried to warn her, but it was too late. Jack was already upon her, his knife flashing in the moonlight. I watched in horror as he carved her apart, piece by piece, until there was nothing left but a pile of blood and flesh. I stumbled backward, my mind reeling. This couldn't be real. It had to be some kind of sick joke, a nightmare that I would soon wake up from. But then I saw him again, Jack the Ripper, standing at the end of the alleyway, his eyes fixed on me. I tried to run, but my legs wouldn't move. I was frozen in place, like a rabbit caught in the jaws of a snake. And as he walked towards me, his knife held high, I knew that this was the end. But just as he was about to strike, a figure stepped out from the shadows. It was a man dressed in a long coat and hat, his face obscured by the darkness.
"Get away from him!"
the man growled. Jack hesitated for a moment, his eyes flickering between me and the newcomer. And then he turned and fled, disappearing into the darkness once more. The man turned to me, his eyes flashing with anger.
"What the hell are you doing out here?"
he demanded. "I don't know," I stammered. "I was just curious."
"Well, curiosity killed the cat,"
he said, shaking his head.
"Come on, I'll take you somewhere safe."
I followed him through the darkened streets of London, my mind still reeling from what I had seen. But as we walked, I couldn't shake the feeling that I was being watched. And then I saw them, a group of people standing at the end of the street. They were dressed in old-fashioned clothing, their faces twisted in a grotesque parody of humanity. "Who are they?" I asked the man, pointing towards the group. He looked at me, his eyes filled with fear.
"They're the victims,"
he said.
"The ones who never left this place."
I stumbled backward, my mind racing. "What do you mean? How is that possible?"
"It's complicated,"
he said, grabbing my arm.
"Come on, we have to keep moving."
We walked for what seemed like hours, winding through the darkened streets of London. And everywhere we went, I saw signs of the horror that had taken place here so long ago. But eventually, we came to a small house on the outskirts of the city. The man led me inside, and I collapsed onto the couch, my mind spinning. "What's going on?" I asked, looking at him with confusion. He sighed, sitting down next to me.
"It's a long story, but I suppose you deserve to know the truth."
And so he began to tell me the story of Jack the Ripper, the notorious serial killer who had terrorized London so many years ago. He told me of the 5 women who had been brutally murdered, their bodies mutilated beyond recognition.
"But that's not the end of the story,"
he said.
"You see, the murders didn't stop with those 5 women. There were others, countless others, who were taken by the Ripper's ghostly hand."
I stared at him in disbelief. "Ghostly hand?" I repeated. "What are you talking about?" He leaned forward, his eyes piercing mine.
"Jack the Ripper was not just a man,"
he said.
"He was a demon, a creature of pure evil. And when he died, his spirit did not depart this world. Instead, it lingered, haunting the streets of London for all eternity."
I shook my head, unable to comprehend what he was saying. "But why?" I asked. "Why would a demon like that be allowed to roam the earth?"
"It's the curse,"
he said.
"The curse of the Ripper. It's said that anyone who speaks his name 3 times will summon his spirit, and he will claim them as his own."
I felt a chill run down my spine. "But I didn't say his name," I protested. "I didn't even know."
"It doesn't matter,"
he said.
"You were drawn to him, and that was enough. But you're lucky. Most people don't survive their encounter with the Ripper's ghost."
I stared at him in disbelief. "What can we do?" I asked. "How do we stop him?" He shook his head.
"I don't know if we can,"
he said.
"The curse is too powerful. But there is one thing we can try. We can try to lay his spirit to rest, to break the curse that binds him to this world."
"How?" I asked.
"We need to find the one who summoned him,"
he said.
"The one who spoke his name 3 times. If we can break the curse at its source, maybe we can save ourselves and others from the Ripper's wrath."
We set out that night, walking through the darkened streets of London once more. And everywhere we went, I felt his presence, the shadow of the Ripper looming over us. But finally, we found what we were looking for. It was a small group of men, gathered around a makeshift altar in a deserted alleyway. They were chanting, their voices rising in a strange, guttural language. And then I heard it, the name they were chanting. "Jack the Ripper, Jack the Ripper, Jack the Ripper." I stumbled backward, my mind reeling. "We have to stop them," I said to the man. He nodded, and we charged forward, interrupting the ritual. The men turned on us, their faces twisted with rage. But we fought back, and in the end, we were able to break the curse. The spirit of Jack the Ripper dissipated into the air, his reign of terror finally coming to an end. As we walked away, I felt a sense of relief wash over me. But I knew that the memory of what I had seen would stay with me forever. And every time I walked through the darkened streets of London, I would remember the horror that had taken place there. The horror of Jack the Ripper.